Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus, and we actually have some breaking news coming in just now. Breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. The Bucks have announced which of their stars are playing. I know we just finished covering that, but big news. Damian Lillard is playing tonight. Giannis Antetokounmpo is out for Game 6. So one half of that duo is in, the other half is out. Uh, does that change the outcome of the game? Dame can certainly take over a game, and if, like we saw in the first half of Game 1 when he put up 35 and a half, that's still insane to me. Uh, he can take over a game. I think this definitely might sway in the Bucks' favor, especially with all the momentum that they have right now. And I'm sorry to keep pounding on that point or harping on that point, but it's something that I hadn't seen out of the Pacers in a really long time. The kind of dejection that I saw on the court is not a really good sign to me, and especially with Dame coming back, I think that the Bucks might extend this series to 7. Interesting. Maybe the Bucks can make a little maybe the Bucks can make a little comeback here. We'll have to see. But anyway, in this segment here, we are going to talk a little bit about football. The Steelers in specific. The Steelers have had some interesting discussions. We'll talk about the Steelers. We'll talk about some fifth-year options being declined, being accepted, all of that, and more. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message will pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, everybody else around the world to see. We appreciate anything that you do give. We appreciate all of you for sticking around, tuning in, and watching. And we appreciate your support. Like I was saying, though, we're going to move on to the gridiron, talk a little bit about some football. The NFL draft is over, but the offseason is still heating up. You know, the main event might be over, but there's still all these after effects. There's people getting cut, people getting signed. Rosters are starting to slowly finalize. Rookie mini camps are coming up. I want to talk a little bit about some guys in there, but we're gonna start with the Steelers, and one of the most interesting headlines that I have seen in quite some time coming out of football. The Steelers special team coach, and this is coming from Jalen Warren, the running back. He said the special team coach said, "Oh, Bally Sports Channels pulled off lineup by Comcast." After Comcast and Bally's bankrupt, failed to make a new deal. So baseball is... Ooh, okay, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I need to get more info on that. That's more breaking news, guys. This is we stay ahead of things here. But one of the more interesting stories that I have seen in quite some time with the new kickoff rules. The Steelers were talking about getting a little creative, and I'm not sure if he was joking or not. He could have totally been joking, but it's an interesting idea to play around with here. The new kickoff rules, for those who forgot or didn't hear, it's basically adopting the old XFL kickoff style. The two teams line up 5 yards apart from each other. No one is allowed to move until the ball is caught by the returner or hits the ground. There's different touchback rules, but for this story, it doesn't really matter that much. The idea with Justin Fields is we see what he's been able to do in the open field as a running quarterback. Why not put him out there on special teams in a much safer environment when you're not really getting these guys running super fast downhill at you? It's going to be very similar to just, a normal running play. You can make schemes out of this, and that's something I'm really looking forward to with this league coming up, with this at least next season. But if you're not going to use Justin Fields as a quarterback, which, side note, I think that would be kind of stupid to do. Sure, you have Russell Wilson, but you know what Russell Wilson is. You still might have a little bit of hope for Justin Fields. You didn't trade for him to be a backup for 1 year and then disappear. I know they didn't give up that much, but still, it makes more sense for him to start at quarterback. But all reports that I've seen seem to say Russell Wilson is the starter, and that's just how it's going to be. But if Justin Fields isn't going to be the starting quarterback, he is the kind of athlete that you want to use. I mean, you got him for a reason. You put him back there on the kick return, and I mean, it's still kind of wild to say, oh, let's put a quarterback on kick return. But you take a look at what he's done with his legs with the Bears. I mean, he's one of the most electric runners in the game when he gets in open space. He's incredibly fast. He's quick with his decisions. Kick return's a whole nother animal. And the entire league is going to be trying to figure it out this season. We don't know how it's going to work. I don't think they would actually put Justin Fields at kick returner. But with the new rules, it's not necessarily that as outlandish of an idea as it would have been last season. Justin Fields, you don't want him getting crushed. He's your backup plan at minimum. You know, we saw how many quarterbacks got hurt last season. The Steelers went through it themselves, you know. They ended up starting Mason Rudolph in a playoff game. You know, that wasn't their plan heading into the season. I know it wasn't. Nothing against Mason Rudolph. He played just fine, but a little bit against Mason Rudolph, actually. I take that back. He's not really a great quarterback. He's not the guy you want starting the playoff game for your team. And I know the Steelers weren't really ever going to make that much noise in the playoffs. They just weren't a team that was built for that, but still. Not really the guy that you want at quarterback. And if you're putting your backup plan in a kick returner with a chance to get crushed every single game, multiple times a game, you have to be careful with that if you're the Steelers. And like I said, I think it's definitely an interesting idea. Like, Justin Fields is a special talent with the ball in his hands. He's not built like a running back. He's not built to do, you know, like Cordero Patterson kind of situation. And I definitely don't think that they're actually going to put Justin Fields back on kick returner. But it's a fun little thought to have. You can have two kick returners back there, have him out there as one of them, you know. I don't know how well he can catch a kick. I'm sure if they worked on it with him, he'd be fine. The more I talk about it, the more excited I would be to see this, actually. And the more I think it might work, especially with the new kick rules, because you're not having these big guys flying at you as fast. So it's not going to be as dangerous. He could do it. I'm talking myself into this one, guys, and maybe I'm insane, but I'm talking myself into this one. I'd like to see it at least once. It's maybe like a special package. You get Justin Fields out there, give him a chance to do some damage. I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother thought. The rest there was other quarterback news coming out of the league in the last couple days. With the Giants in particular. The Giants have a very interesting situation. They didn't take a quarterback in the draft, thank goodness. Wouldn't have made sense at 6 after those guys were off the board. But now you're left with a prove-it year of Daniel Jones. You have an out year after this season. He's coming off a torn ACL and Drew Lock. And there are reports that it's going to be a QB battle, like a straight-up quarterback battle at a camp. Daniel Jones' job is not safe. And I feel like that's completely reasonable. Drew Lock played a couple really big games for the Seahawks down the stretch. He beat the Eagles, had that nice drive at the end of the game to beat them in late December, around Christmas time. I think that was the Christmas game, actually. But the Giants are going to have a QB battle. And Daniel Jones is coming off a torn ACL. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for the season. Reports seem to be that he will be, but he got hurt on like week 5, so it's going to be tight. Drew Lock has the opportunity to start some games. And it's interesting because Drew Lock, when Daniel Jones was drafted at 6 overall, and then Drew Lock got drafted in the second round of that draft, me as a Giants fan, me personally, I wanted them to draft either Josh Allen or Josh Allen of the Jaguars, or Ed Oliver of the Bills. That's what I wanted them to do there. Uh, it's ancient history at this point, so it doesn't really matter. But when that pick happens, and then you go a little further into the draft, I think Daniel Jones and Drew Lock are very similar ball players. That was my analysis in the draft. That's still my analysis now. They both do some things really well, and they both do some things really poorly. And I was looking at it, I was saying you could have just waited and gotten Drew Lock in the second. And yeah, you could, but now you get Drew Lock now. And it's an interesting situation. These two, like I said, these two came in the same class. They went to different teams. One went in the first round, one went in the second round. They've both kind of flamed out. Daniel Jones did get that big contract after winning a playoff game, and Drew Lock got shipped out for Russell Wilson in what might have turned into one of the worst trades in NFL history for the Broncos. But Drew Lock has shown some potential last season, especially when he was filling in for Geno Smith. He showed some really good potential with what he could have. He can lead a team. Again, granted, that Seahawks offense is really talented, and it's nothing like what he's walking into with the Giants. His accuracy still sometimes can be an issue. He hit a couple really nice deep hole shots last season, and that game-winning touchdown pass to Tyler Lockett, pretty ball, but he still has some concerns, at least in my book. It's going to be an interesting quarterback battle. I think they're really on the same tier, especially Daniel Jones coming off an injury. Daniel Jones is more with his legs. Drew Lock doesn't quite have that element, which I think is what actually sets them apart more for me than anything else. Drew Lock might be a little better at holding on to the football, which is probably Daniel Jones' biggest weakness. But adding Malik Neighbors, if you can get that short game going, which Brian Daboll did, that's how they built their playoff success, their playoff roster from 2 seasons ago. It was a lot of short, quick routes, decisiveness, getting your guys, scheming them open rather than, skilling them open, I guess, for lack of a better term. But the Giants are in an interesting spot. And I don't envy Brian Daboll for the spot he's in. This is essentially a contract year for Daniel Jones. Like I said, the Giants have an out after this season, so they're either going to roll with him or they're going to cut him and draft a quarterback next year. Either one's fine. This is his last chance. This is a prove-it year. His last contract year went really good, so maybe this one will too. I think Daniel Jones will still end up winning that job over Drew Lock, like I said, because he has been there for 6 years now, 5 years. It's been some time, and they're on the same level. Drew Lock isn't that much better than Daniel Jones, so I think this is one of those QB competitions that you're gonna kind of lose either way. As a Giants fan, but I think Daniel Jones will win this competition out, assuming he's healthy for the beginning of the season. Lots of stuff going on. 5th-year options. Najee Harris had his declined. He's been over 1,000 yards every season. It hasn't been a very efficient 1,000 yards, and his carries have started getting eaten into by Jaylen Warren. But so was Justin Fields. Both of them, Justin Fields and Najee Harris, had their 5th-year options turned down, so they'll be free agents next season. Kwity Paye of the Indianapolis Colts had his 5th-year option selected, so he'll have one more year on his contract with the Colts. It's the Steelers are in an interesting spot. So are the Giants. Both of those teams are in interesting spots with their quarterback situations. They kind of mirror each other a little bit, even. The Steelers are a better team, no doubt, but they kind of mirror each other in certain ways. Similar situation at quarterback. The defense, they are better than the offense, but the Steelers just are better in almost everything. But we'll see. I'd love to see Justin Fields return some kicks. That's my big thesis from this segment. I'd love to see Justin Fields return some kicks. I think that would be a lot of fun. It's not going to happen, but I do think it would be a lot of fun. Anyway, we're going to close out our show today talking about some MLB power rankings. I talked about it a couple days, I believe last week, but it got cut out. I don't know what happened there, but stick around. We have our 1 month MLB power rankings coming up next on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.